Education is the way that you break a cycle of poverty.
Hi, I am here at How We Fix the Economy with Mariah Shea, a student at Oregon State who's originally from a very rural community.
So I grew up in Brightwood, Oregon.
Okay.
It's at the base of Mount Hood. It's a great place to retire. But up there's really little opportunity for people to succeed or go on to higher education. My family, both of my parents just have a high school diploma. And so they have minimum wage jobs, and they've never really been able to have those kinds of opportunities that other people that I know have had.
Was that because of education or just kind of the circumstance of the economy around there?
I really think it's the circumstance of the economy around there, you know. Every single day my mom would work at Fred Meyer, and she hated it.
Oh,
she hated
I've
it.
heard mixed reviews about it.
Yeah. So my mom always told me to, you know, you're going to go to college and you're going to get a great job, but I never knew what that looked like, and I've never had role models that have gone on to higher education. It was just, it's not the climate of a rural community. People generally have their own businesses or they have minimum wage jobs. I mean, where I grew up, they didn't even have a grocery store or no transportation systems. And for the students around there and the kids around there, they don't have a voice. And that's kind of the basis of why I wanted to start you know, an educational program for rural students so that they did have the opportunity to go on to higher education. When my mom told me that, you know, you need to go to college and you need to get a good job, the fact that I didn't know what that looked like meant I really didn't have money to do this. And so I would sit in the back of the classroom and all of my friends would have their lives planned out. I mean, going on to college for a lot of people who don't live in rural communities is that it's kind of an autonomous move to go on to college from high school. But for me, I really didn't know how I was going to get there because I simply didn't have the support and the resources available to me. So I worked really hard. There aren't a lot of opportunities for jobs, and so you kind of just take what you can get. So I was a housekeeper for 2.5 years, and it taught me a lot.
Was it after high school?
That was during high school.
During high
I worked
school.
full-time during high school, and then I worked over 60 hours a week during the summer to try. I didn't even know if I could go to college, even with the money that I made. So none of my friends went on to college. It's really just me, and so I'm hoping to pave the road for my family. I mean, education is the way that you break a cycle of poverty. Ultimately, what I aim to do is break those cycles of poverty within rural communities and give a voice to students who may have never had it before.
What was it that allowed you to make the jump? I mean, you obviously were earning a little bit of money, and you were also you're taking classes, and so you were full speed ahead. But you know, as much as that's awesome, that doesn't always do it. You need a break.
Right.
You need a break. And so, was there a grant that you applied for, or did you apply for financial aid at Oregon State, or what was it that made it happen?
That really made it happen, yeah. So I knew that I needed to work to at least pay for my first year of college, and if I could pay for my first year, then I could start working during that year to pay for the next year. But what really helped me was the FAFSA. Federal student aid.
Okay.
And then Oregon State offered me a lot of scholarships based on my academic ability. I was in the top 8%, which was weird because I was working so much as well, so I'm kind of that person that is really good at time management. I knew, though, that education was the way to get me out of my current situation. I knew that was the only way I was going to do it.
But from a practical standpoint, you still needed money.
I still needed money.
You work out of a trailer that has technology and with manufacturing in it. And so was that something that existed before, or was it completely put together by yourself and a team based on a proposal that you put in?
So kind of the basis of Ideation Station came originally from a needs assessment from United Way of Benton and Lincoln counties, stating that the Monroe School District, or the city of Monroe in general, just had a lot of students that had nothing to do after school, and because of that, they were getting into trouble. So that's very typical for rural communities.
Right.
Is to
nothing to do, and so you get
exactly
you
no
get
after-school programs, no sports programs, no nothing. So what are students going to do after school?
Right.
cause trouble.
Right.
And so originally we were going to build a community center within the high school, since they do have a couple empty classrooms.
Right.
But the more that I looked into this rural community, the more I related to it from my own experience from Brightwood, Oregon. No resources or opportunities to grow. And so the more that I looked into it, the more I realized that this is a problem not just in Oregon, but in the United States with rural communities.
Right.
Stanford has a model. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's like a mobile classroom inside a small motorhome, and they travel the United States, and they do projects with students.
Right.
Typically for more affluent communities. And so I was thinking, why don't we do one for rural communities, for people that don't have resources? So with the Mobile Makerspace, we have a curriculum based on STEAM, so science, technology, engineering, arts, math, and then entrepreneurship, so that when students can create items, they can enterprise them and create businesses out of them, and create economic development in rural communities because of that.
So they're basically getting a taste of how it works to go from idea to product, and then go from product to trying to pitch or sell that product and see if and refine that whole stream.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so they
really
can
nice
enterprise
idea.
their education.
Right.
Essentially.
You've been constantly engaged and busy, both mentally and I guess physically, pretty much from the time that you decided you wanted to move ahead. And how critical is it to stay in that constant motion and keep kind of an upbeat attitude? Because I'm sure there were a lot of times when you were working your 60-hour weeks that, and you open up the door and you're like, oh, I do not want to clean this room.
Yes.
But how critical is it, and how were you able to keep your energy and your mind upbeat that whole time? I mean, it's tough.
It is tough, and when you're in that constant motion, and at the time I didn't even know if college was something that was going to give me what I needed. I felt like I was born far away from where I was supposed to be, so I felt like I was going home. And so I felt that it was.
You had like an instinctual drive in a way?
I did, yeah. I mean, I knew that education was the only way to break the cycle of poverty.
Right.
And although I didn't know if I would ever be able to actually go to college, I knew that if I worked hard enough, something was going to happen.
Right.
But I knew staying stagnant and static I was just going to repeat the same thing my parents did.
Right.
And I knew that I didn't want to be like them. As much as I love what they do, I think they're very intelligent people. I remember telling myself every day that I was done with work, and housekeeping is one of those things where you're constantly running the entire time.
Yeah.
There's just such high demand for those kinds of services. And every single day I would tell myself, one more day. And every time that I could go one more day was one day closer to when I could stop. Or one day closer to where I would be where I wanted to be. So even if it seems like you're not getting anywhere, just know that if it feels right, you're going somewhere.
Right.
Always going somewhere. I think a lot of people don't think that they can change where they are. We're born into circumstances that we can't control. And it's very sad for a lot of people, but what people need to know is that you can get out of that situation. And it's going to be hard, and a lot of people, I think, aren't willing to put in the effort to get there, because it is harder for some people to see. I think for a lot of people it was autonomous to go on to higher education, but for me it was a struggle.
Right.
And that's the unfairness, I think, of life that we just have to deal with.
Here we go. What do you think are the most effective habits that young people can adopt in order to be successful in the modern world?
Oh wow, that is a huge question. Okay, from my own personal experience, I would say a couple things. And the first one is work ethic.
Okay.
You need to be able to work hard, put in those hours. Sometimes it's going to seem like it's the end of the world, and you're going to think that you're not getting anywhere. One paddle, you feel like you're going in circles.
With a hole.
Exactly, a hole in the boat. So work ethic.
Okay.
I don't think there's enough of that today. I don't know if people are willing to work hard today. The next one, I think, is being able to take risks. We kind of get into this mindset where we can only be comfortable with something. But in my own experience, college was very uncomfortable. It was something I didn't know would actually pay off or get me anywhere except into more debt. And for some people that is that way, but being able to take those risks and take chances and be uncomfortable, I think that you grow at the end of your comfort zone and you become better for it.
Right.
And then lastly, I think that people today should realize that the world owes you nothing.
The world owes you nothing.
Absolutely nothing. And you have to make your life out of that. And that as in, you shouldn't expect things from people. Be productive in the hours that you have, because there's only, 12 hours in the day that you're actually conscious. And so use that time to your advantage. Build yourself up and help others in the process.
How is the United Way facilitating this concept, the realization of this concept?
Yes, well, ever since their needs assessment, which was the foundation of Ideation Station.
Okay, so they did a survey down in Monroe?
Yep, a needs assessment down at Monroe. And so they've been our strategic partner since the beginning. They've given us lots of funding opportunities. We'll be going to their gala. They've had representatives from Ron Wyden's office come and meet us. So they're extremely, extremely good at giving us partnerships and contacts. Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. So they help you meet the people that will help you expand and move forward with your goals.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
So, having won a number of awards, you've got a great resume overall, and you're doing a lot of good stuff. You won. There was a Clinton Global Initiative.
That's right.
And so, was that something you had applied for early on, or was it something? How did you come to learn what it was and how you were going to be part of it?
I first learned of the competition through one of my contacts. She is the director of the Austin Entrepreneurship Program, and she does student engagement here. I think she might be the director of student engagement now, Standy Newbaum. Okay. Awesome lady. And she said, there's this global competition called the Clinton Global Initiative University, and that's at UC Berkeley. Do you want to go? We were like, I guess. And at this point, it was very close to the competition. As in the next couple weeks, we're going to have to formulate our business plan and our pitch, all in a couple weeks.
Nothing like
but
fire, though.
Hey, let's take a risk, let's go. And so I went with a couple students who also had their own business ideas, and we did what was called the Social Venture Challenge. So we did this very rigorous, intense business plan writing and pitch competition. Dale McCauley completely drilled us into creating the perfect pitch and answering hard questions. When someone asks you about your funding model, you better know what it is.
Yeah, they want you, I think,
There we go.
I'm sure those people are as interested in your confidence and ability to answer the questions as they are in what the actual answers are.
Exactly, and that's very true. So we arrived at the Social Venture Challenge, and we realized that we didn't know what we were up against. When we meet people from Stanford and Columbia and Duke with very, very beautiful presentation boards that are just oh my gosh, I don't even know what materials they were using.
Martian.
Yeah, Martian materials. To our, handwritten poster board, you could really tell the difference between this public university who has never been to this competition before versus Ivy League schools.
It's okay because you got to learn.
You got to learn, and at that point when I realized the competition that we were up against, I looked to my business partner Steven and I was like, how can we do this? We're talking to people from Duke who have been at this like 3 or 4 times. How in the world can we get funding for our business? And it was then that I realized when talking to the judges that it didn't matter what the presentation was. If you had the passion and the business idea, then that was enough. That was enough to win. And so we went on to the second.
Okay, so there's elimination rounds.
There's elimination rounds.
Okay.
So then you pitch to more judges and they grill you more, and then we went to the final round. Which you had a certain time limit, you had to meet the time limit, and we probably had 10 or 20 minutes for questions. And after that, they said, okay, like, you're free to go. And then at the Clinton Global Initiative on the last day, they announced we were winners.
Oh, nice.
And it was the most amazing feeling to be against such strict competition.
Did you win the whole thing, or were you just one of the many winners?
We were one of the few winners there. So we got the funding that we asked for, which was a very big step for us who had really never gotten funding before for our business. But it showed us that there were people that were willing to stand with us, and that our business idea was something that could actually work.
I guess, that's an interesting, the whole process is really interesting because a lot of times, and I've heard this over and over again through my year of talking to people, is that passion and commitment to that passion are critical elements for venture capitalists or angel investors to come in and give you a lot of money. Not a huge amount, but a lot of money, basically enough money to keep that idea going.
Exactly.
And so, the fact that you were there with crayons and a whiteboard, or
Gosh, yeah.
comparatively, you were.
It was a very big difference.
But that's okay. Because I've seen this at science conferences. It's the content really that counts.
It is.
And the nice thing about it is that, like I said, the venture capitalists, and angel investors, and the judges, the people who kind of wield the monetary power, that's what they want to see. They want to see passion. They want to see intelligent design. They understand that there are stages of execution.
Yes.
There's the Oregon State stage of execution, and then there's the Stanford, Berkeley, Yale. They know. They took into consideration the fact that this was the first time you'd been there, and so it was nice of them to listen. But you can.
Yes.
But that's the other thing is that, as kids these days, is that don't be discouraged or intimidated. You just have to stand your ground of who you are and speak to what your passion is, because when you put that energy out there, that's what it is that they want. Sure, they want the money. Let's not doubt for any second. They want profit from your intelligence and energy as investors, but they also want to understand that you have that energy to follow through with it, so that both of you benefit, and that's a critical lesson for the kids these days.
Oh my gosh, exactly. If you're confident and you can communicate these ideas and show that this is something that can happen with my help.
Right.
I can do
this.
this.
Yes, I can do this. I want to thank Mariah Shea for being my guest today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's been awesome. So, do you know who Mark Cuban is?
I do know who Mark Cuban is. I do like Shark Tank.
Okay. Don't you think that he should, man up, as it were, and go ahead and give you a grant for, I'm going to say $5 million to get this national trailer education system going? Don't you think that he should give you that money? Because,
that would be wonderful.
You're giving money to the wrong team, Mark. Come on, you really are. You should be investing in people rather than
invest in education.
That goes on either side, and then there's just tons of storage in there. It's basically it's like a tiny house, but it's a tiny factory. It's really what it is.
It is, yes.
Great idea for a TV show, Tiny Factory. Somebody pick that up.
He's coining it right now.
Yeah. I'm the host. She can co-host, whatever. Anyway, what HGTV? Is that what it would be on?
Thank you.
So when are you running for president?
Oh my gosh.